Hey everyone, welcome to another AI conversation, and I'm happy to be joined today by Neil Bacon, or is it Bacon? Welcome,
Back
Neil.
on.
Yeah. Anyway, so I encountered Neil in the Data Engineering Pilipinas group, no, the DEP, by Mike et al. Shout out to the group. And yeah, and I've been talking with Neil about his journey. But I'll save the suspense for him now when he introduces himself. But I think we're gonna have a good chat about kind of the journey of anyone who wants to get into the data career. And currently, Neil is kind of handling data, but not quite. No, so I'll let him introduce himself. So welcome, Neil, to our conversation.
Thank you so much, Doc, for inviting me and letting me share my personal experience as a career shifter.
Yan, tama. So, sige, over to you. Tell me about tell everyone about biology and where it all
Okay.
started.
Okay. So I actually graduate BS Biology on 2019. So I took BS Biology from high school because uh, naisip ko gusto ko mag-doktor. Yun talaga yung plano
Mhm.
ko. And biology is the closest pre-med for me compared sa other uh, course.
Yeah. Ano ba yung
Uh,
mga iba pang pre-med? Psychology
act-
maybe, siguro,
act-
no?
Actually, pwede rin po yung chem eh. Chem,
Chemistry.
meron ding I think medtech from nurse background, yan pwede sila
Mm.
mag-med. Yeah.
But I would
And
think biology is the most popular or not
uh,
not necessarily.
kasi biology from etymology is life eh. So study of life. So
Mm.
naisip ko yun yung pinakamalapit.
Yeah,
So yun so pagka-graduate ko, I'm actually a DOST scholar
right.
for 2 years. And need ko mag-return ng service sa kahit magtrabaho lang ng kahit anong work basta within the Philippines.
Yeah,
I-equal sa years na naging scholar ako, so 2 years.
right.
And during that time, ang hirap maghanap ng work kasi ang hinahanap ng market is prefer nila yung kapag sa laboratory, mga may PRC license tulad ng chem, meron tayong mga food tech, ganyan. Sa hospital setup naman, syempre mga medtech, mga nurse. So sa mga research naman, katulad ng may mga specialist din naghahanap ng mga may masters, ganyan, kung sa plants, ganyan, sa marine biology. So as a biology itself, ang hirap maghanap ng work. So it's been mga 6 months din bago ako makahanap ng first job. And I landed as a laboratory assistant yung title niya. But basically, ang ginagawa ko is sa school ako and ako yung nagbibigay ng mga laboratory apparatus, sa mga glassware, sa mga students na
So
gagamitin nila
so
sa
definitely
experiment.
not a biology type
Um,
work. Or
uh,
sort of.
Sort of, kasi lab naman din.
Oo.
So, yun. Yun yung naging una kong job. And the pay is, yeah, the minimum. And that's November or December 2019. And then pandemic happened. So noong 2020, ang nangyari, nag-close yung mga school. Parang na-lay off yung job ko kasi wala naman na kaming i-cater. So, ang naisip ko niyan, anong susunod? Ano nang magiging job ko? Ang hirap maghanap ng work nga. Paano ako makakahanap pa ng susunod na work ko? So, tapos one time may nakita ako sa post sa FB about bioinformatics. Ang page is yung Philippine Genome Center. Tapos na-curious ako, tingnan ko yung requirements. Dapat kailangan ng programming language at mga scripting language like Linux, ganyan. Sabi ko, ha? Hindi naman 'to biology biology skills So, na-curious ako, yun IT skills siya. Tapos sinearch ko yung narinig ko na yung bioinformatics but it is a relatively new field. So wala pa talaga siyang career dito sa Pilipinas kaya naghahanap nga lang na iti-train pa yung PGC. So tinry ko aralin. Actually yung una kong binisita na language is yung R. And nakita ko siya more on statistical talaga siya. Hindi talaga siya more on programming language siya pero specific siya sa data analysis, sa statistical environment. And then natutunan ko dun yung mga creating functions, how variables work, dun ako natutunan. Then nag-dive in din ako sa Python
Mm.
at dun ang mas malawak na part. And yun talaga masasabi ko programming talaga. So natutunan ko din yung mga loops, ayan, yung mga if-else statement.
Did you have any past programming training or
Wala,
thereabouts?
wala talaga. So lahat ng, pag-aaral ko is, via free resources sa internet. Ay yun naman ang kagandahan sa tech is abundance ng ng resources. Ah, at ang kagandahan din dun kaya padali is you only need investment of computer. Uh, in uh, in contrast sa science, halimbawa sa biology, you need in order to apply yung concepts mo, need mo siya gawin sa lab. So need mo ng equipments, ng glasswares, ng laboratory room, and may specified time ka.
Is
And
it possible to set up your own lab? I'm completely ignorant, no. May
okay,
mga lab kits ba for biology that you can buy anywhere?
Um, meron sa mga kung nagsa-study ka po about sa mga plants, ganyan lang. Pero kapag sa mga need ng mga chemicals talaga and yung mga equipment, sa lab talaga siya gagawin dapat. And dapat, properly, equipped ka, ganyan. Ayun talaga
Are
as
there labs that you can rent? I'm just thinking na parang
mm,
for some reason I'm very surprised na the prospects pala for biology by itself don't seem to be attractive kung hindi ka naman magme-medicine, no? Is that where you're going with this yung experience mo?
yes po, on my experience, yun yung case. Sa lab naman, puwede kang mag-rent yung mga halimbawa yung mga nag-thesis tapos rent sila sa isang company, which is, mahal nga lang talaga. And kapag sa school ka naman magte-thesis is siyempre may mga schedule kasi kayo, magpapalitan kayo ng ng shift, ganyan. Which is mahirap din kasi di gano'n ka-accessible. Um, yun ang kaibahan sa programming is generally, you only need the computer and kapag may need kang, i-apply na concepts na natutunan mo, just code it, parang gano'n.
The
And
computer is your lab basically, right?
yes, yes, 'di ba? And yeah, it's accessible and there's a lot of abundance on learning materials and there's an immediate, result. Kumbaga, for example, isa rin sa kaibahan nila is kung mag-e-experiment ka as a sa science, you have, years of, design and then malalaman mo pa yung result after 1 year, ganyan. Pero sa programming is almost immediate, result and kung may error man sasabihin sa'yo ng console kung, syntax error ba 'yan, yung may immediate feedback ka, yun rin yung kagandahan sa programming sa pag-aaral ko.
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I want to dwell on that a little bit. That's very mind-blowing for me, kasi remember how, sa government you always have this STEM kind of push,
Mm,
no? Oh, we need more STEM. But if biologists, which is certainly a STEM field,
mm,
if you're not going to become a doctor, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, no? Syempre
mm,
medicine is yet another career. Pero just staying within the science of biology, can't really find ways to prosper kasi you don't have a lab to go to, and if you stay in school you become maybe a lab assistant. When do you really parang practice the bio? Parang, or how do you become a biologist, like a scientist? 'Di ba? For
mm,
me, I suddenly feel so parang sad, no, for those fields. And bio is maybe one of many fields pa. It's not just biology. Tapos sabi mo nga wala namang PRC sa bio. Is that true?
yes, yes.
'Di ba? So
Mm,
what now? So I feel that's a mismatch. So I
mm,
do a lot of work in skills mismatch right now, no. Sa
mm,
AAP and then now in IBPAP we're looking at mismatch. So we're producing all these biologists and then no one is hiring them. A few will become doctors, medical doctors, and certainly those guys get hired. Yung may iwan in biology, they're stuck. And then some of them, like you, become, uh, in a way, you become adopted computer scientists kasi
mm,
you're using the computer. Then it begs the question, why didn't you just take com sci na lang? Or
yes.
something like that, no? Sige. Anyway, yun, I just feel bothered by that.
Mm,
And you're the first person I'm talking to that actually parang talked about yung talagang experience on the ground, no? Okay. So ano nangyari? What happened to you? So you said you ended up learning Python, and
Yeah.
R. Okay, those
Yes.
are familiar
Ah,
enough. Okay, ano pa nangyari?
so nag-ano, para ma-apply ko pa yung natutunan ko, naggawa ko ng mga personal projects, personal apps, portfolios. And nung, confident na ako, ah, actually naging, after associate medical underwriter muna ako for 1 year. And then nag-resign ako nung May 2022 para dive in talaga kasi, napagdesisyonan ko na, ay magda-dive in talaga ako sa tech. Kailangan ko mag-aral lang muna na laser focus for sabihin natin for 1 year kung ganyan, kung hopefully makahanap na ako nun. Ayun, from May 2022 nag-aral ako and nag-apply na ako noong bandang November 2022.
What did
And
how did you study? You went through a boot camp, you went back to school, paano yung ano mo, yung
I
aral?
actually, just, self-study on, mostly yung resources ko is YouTube. We have Free Code Camp, and we have Bro Code. I think that's the channel for Python. And yeah, just applying what I learned to personal projects that na interested ako. Um, and may nakita rin ako sa Google Data Analytics na, free sa Coursera. So tinake ko rin 'yun. So yun yung ano, mga 6 months ako self-study na laser focus, and I landed a job here, my first. Pero ang experience ko pala sa job hunting is, mahirap din kasi parang feeling ko sa HR pa lang nasasala na ekis 'to kasi hindi ko course. May one time nga na na-interview ako, um, HR interview din initial. Pagdating banda sa dulo, nakita niya yung ano, "Ay, BS Biology ka pala, mali." May gano'n siyang ano, nasabi. Tapos sabi sa'yo, "Ay sige, we'll call you na lang." Yung hindi ako na-call. Yung parang yun ang mahirap kasi, parang mga sa HR nila pa lang nakikita nila, ay dapat ano, IT related or comsci related. Ayun yung kahirapan. Kaya
What kind of
thankfully,
role ulit yung mga kailangan ng IT or ComSci? Those are like developer jobs, parang gano'n?
yes, mga data analyst, yun pa yung in-applyan ko, eh. Data analyst, software engineer, ayun. Tapos, thankfully this, my current job ay yung HR na pumasa ako sa HR. So, nagtuloy ako hanggang sa tech, interview na. Dun talaga ako nasala kung ano ba talaga.
What do you really know, no?
Yes,
So your biology background, sorry to keep going back, was
okey.
that even an advantage in applying for some of these jobs? Kasi alam mo yung mga ibang jobs pag binasa mo, mathematics, statistics,
Mm,
computer engineering, or related discipline, no?
mm.
Did they consider biology a related discipline, or did you feel it?
Hindi po, eh. Kasi masasabi mo yung ano, yung mathematics tsaka, statistics puwede pa sa business part and computational part sa ano, eh, sa pagiging data analyst, ganyan. Pero yung sa biology, malayo talaga, eh. Ang pinakamalapit na parang medyo tech, pero hindi rin tech, eh, yung, medical coder,
Hmm.
yun yung pinakamalapit.
What
Pero
about, di ba may informatics, bioinformatics? Is that
ah,
a subfield of biology that you could have taken up had you known or hindi?
ay yes po, yung bioinformatics po yung ano, yung nagtulak sa'kin sa ano, sa pag-learning, programming, kaso ano pa siya, hindi pa siya booming dito sa Pilipinas. That's why,
It's not.
nag-training pa lang na
Oo.
yung nakita kong job, parang posting na naghahanap pa ng ite-train. At dun po sa ite-train is marami ng requirements din na dapat, nagma-masters ka, gano'n. Kaya yun yung
Wow.
parang hindi accessible, ayun din pala, hindi accessible yung mga career sa ano, dito sa path ko kasi nga masyado silang mataas yung standard kung dapat ano, masters ganyan, dapat may license gano'n, ayun ang mahirap.
Pero if there's no such thing as a biology license, then how do you get into those, no? So I'm trying to think about, nabigla akong talagang, I'm just mind
Hmm,
blown. No? I'm just
mm.
thinking, we should be providing bioinformatics training at large para yung mga nag-bio and hindi magme-med but want to get into kunyari yan analysis, data science, may pathway sila. So that's a big chunk of the, naalala ko, when we were doing the labor market report for analytics, tiningnan namin yung shed, eh. Ito yung
Mm,
mga fields. Merong stream na biology, ah. So lahat 'yon tapon, hindi naman tapon, yung iba dun goes to medicine.
Mm.
So I'm just shocked na what happened to those people. Did you consider going abroad? I'm sure there's demand for biology abroad.
Inisip ko muna dito muna sa Pilipinas since, yung ano nga po sa DOST is need ko magtrabaho muna dito sa Pilipinas, on 2 years. And
Yeah.
sa kagandahan naman din po sa DOST nag-o-offer din naman sila ng scholarship for masters. Ayun po
Mm.
yung, sa mga colleague ko is tinake din
Nagma-master
'yan.
sila? Okay.
Nagma-master sila para magkaroon na sila ng puwesto kung sakaling matapos sila sa masters tsaka lang sila magkakaroon talaga ng puwesto as, related dun sa field namin.
Right.
Hmm,
Okay. Wow. Yeah, kasi siyempre if you can afford to take a master's degree, hindi naman mura 'yan, kahit na
mm,
ibang school, tsaka oras. Even before you get a job. Wow, what a parang butas ng karayom 'yun, 'no? It's
mm,
you're practically para ka na rin nag-med,
mm.
Pero instead of med school, you're doing the master's degree. Baka nga PhD pa yung requirement at some,
Yes,
institutions, 'di ba?
hmm,
Oh, wow. Okay, sige, back to you. So what's happening now? So you took your boot camp, you took your
study,
self-study,
hmm.
and then you learned about yan, yung Python programming, and then you applied, pero it wasn't working out. You were not getting the jobs.
Yes, yun nga para sa HR pa lang, tapon na 'to wala hindi yan ano filter out na yan. Tapos yun nga po dito sa current job ko buti na lang, sa HR, pumasa ako. So once na pumasa ako sa HR need ko na lang talagang ipakita na, um, capable talaga ako sa tech. Ayun sa tech interview, eh, napasa ko naman, nakita nila yung capability ko and medyo entry level naman yung, job sa tech so it's a good start. Kaya yun po yung job ko ngayon.
Okay.
Hmm,
And you're currently working in a BPO, right? A shared service.
yes,
Tell us about the nature of the role that you're doing.
okay. Basically, what I'm doing right now is, data cleaning of, Excel files.
Mhm.
So, yung Excel files different formats yan galing sa different, shops and, sa part na yun, we're using Excel and may part dun na sa data cleaning na, napansin ko repetitive na
Mhm.
hindi kailangan ng human,
Intervention.
intervention or, decision.
Mhm.
So in-automate ko 'yun tapos 'di ko nung ano nag-apply ako dito, 'di ko alam yung macro.
Hmm.
Kasi ang alam ko lang Python ganyan
So
pero
you
may
used
macro pala.
VBA to do
Yes,
that. Okay.
VBA macro sa loob mismo ng ano, ng Excel. So, ang kagandahan naman kasi sa programming is once you learn the concept, syntax na lang yung aaralin mo sa
Yeah.
ano. So, alam ko naman na yung concept na as a programmer. So, in-apply ko na lang siya dun sa, current tool na available na ginagamit ko. So, ayun dun ko na-apply yung, programming na.
I'm very happy to hear that kasi well, obviously I'm old school. So
Hmm,
long before Python and R,
mm,
yung SQL, it's old enough, no? Pero yung Visual Basic for Applications, VBA, kasi I
mm,
actually learned Basic when I was a kid, no? Basic was a programming language. And then later, nung nagkaroon na ng Microsoft applications, sorry if I'm repeating the history, no?
mm,
Nasama si Basic. So in every Microsoft app, especially Excel, there's a basic programming language. Yun yung VBA.
mm,
And I really found VBA very, very liberating, lalo na if you knew how to para siyang para kang may superpower, 'no, sa mga mga sheets, 'no. Of course, maybe it starts by recording a macro first and then figuring out ano ba yung nangyari dito. And then later
yes,
you can write the VBA code diretso na,
mm,
and you can do a lot of really fancy stuff. That was really the skill, no, back in the day. And I find it surprising, I don't know if you encounter this nowadays, maraming siyempre nagpa-Python outright, not realizing na Excel and VBA are pretty powerful on their own.
mm,
So yun nga, ilalabas mo pa sa Python yung gagawin mo. You could have done it inside Excel na rin pala, no? Of course, if you knew both, yun na yun. That's it. Parang God mode ka na in
mm.
any tasks, no? So I'm happy to hear na may ganyan pala. And another unknown power app is Microsoft Access. Ewan ko kung may ganyan kayo sa office. That's
Meron pero di namin SQL Server ang gamit namin.
SQL Server. Well, SQL Server is a database, no? Pero
Mm,
if, for example, you want to do some low-level data mining,
mm,
Access can do it. Kumbaga Access, Excel, VBA. Pag na-combine mo yung tatlong yon, that's like the super saiyan mode of any business analyst. And then pag may IT na, yan na, magkaka-SQL Server na, no? Pero long before IT can get involved, yun yung buhay ko noon when I was starting out in banking. It was figuring out, and noong time na yun, Excel was more baroque than today, no? Parang the row limit was 65,536, 65536, naalala ko pa yun eh. So anything beyond that, nababangga na si Excel. The life hack was to put it into Access, which is unlimited, technically unlimited. And then dami yung nagawa. And then yung mga joining the sheets, dati puro VV lookup lang yan, no? In a database, you can actually SQL join them. Most people didn't realize that's possible pala. And then now, I think Excel, hindi pa nawawala yung feature na to. Excel has a query function sa loob. I don't know if you've
Mm.
ever encountered it. You can you can do SQL on Excel sheets.
Mm.
'Di ba? I don't know if you knew that. Maybe we should do a technical session one time, no? Labasan na ng
Alright.
mga life hacks sa Excel and stuff. Sige, back to you. So, you do data cleaning,
Mm.
and then you discovered VBA, tapos ano pa?
Ayun, basically, yun lang pa lang yung, current task ko is, from different Excel files is sa ETL kami yung transform and, sa pag-load is ina-upload lang namin yung mga formatted files. Then may local tool kami na legacy na yun na yung nag-i-insert sa
Sa
database.
database.
Mm.
Okay. Actually, you brought up another term that I rarely hear these days, except with a few people, which is ETL.
Hmm.
Kasi the sexy term is data engineering.
Ah,
Pero before your data eng was called such, it's really ETL. ETL, and ETL can be many things. Hindi siya, of course, there are ETL tools which are also fading in obscurity, mga Pentaho, mga Informatica, mga Talend. Yun yung commercial. Although Pentaho ata is open source. And yun yung mga predecessors ng mga Apache Airflow, yung mga ganyan, or yung sa mga cloud. Do you guys use cloud or not really?
not yet. So on my ano po, sa team namin, 'di pa.
Mm. So kunyari sa AWS merong Glue, sa Azure meron Data Factory. Yeah, Data Factory tayo ata yung tawag. Anyway, so yun, may kanya-kanyang ETL. And I noticed these days, what people think they're doing on Python actually can be done on ETL then. No? Although you can also do ETL on Excel. Excel is actually one of the best tools on the transform side,
Yes, yes.
assuming it can fit in a sheet. Kasi visual siya eh, kita mo agad. And
Mm.
then, lalo na pag na-template mo na, di ba? Isang click na lang yan. Paulit ng paulit ng paulit. Parang parsing text. Really very well done on an Excel sheet. I-output mo, malinis na, and then you upload it. Okay. So you've been in this job for what? About a year or so?
Yes, I've been, my anniversary was on 23.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you.
So technically, ito na yon. This is the first job.
My first tech job.
Oo. So how do you feel about it now, no? Siyempre, you've had from the bio to the transition and then now the working. And then gusto ko rin malaman how does the career look for you? Do you enjoy it? Is it something you'd like to get deeper into or are there other parts na gusto mong tingnan?
Yes, actually kaya isa rin sa reason bakit, nag-shift ako is, gusto ko rin yung nature ng job which is, you can do it remotely. Merong mga job na you can do just, uh, inside your home and you just need a laptop instead of, for example, yung maging career path ko sana sa bio is, sa laboratory ako, which is pupunta ako lagi ta's ah, I will do those stuff. Parang mas, align na para sa akin na mas ideal na job is to problem solve, to, create, solutions, to automate stuff, just using code. So, mas na-align dito yung, interest ko and yun, ito na po yung ano, decided na ako na dito kung babalik man ako sa bio, yun na yung application na ng current skills ko as a software engineer or as a tech. Hindi na yung as a sa laboratory, skills kundi as a tech na yung i-a-apply ko dun sa bio. For example, baka maging mapalit lang ako sa, I will do data analysis on, biological data for example,
Have you ever
uh,
done that as a side project? Kasi there are
ah
biology data sets available, no?
Hmm. Not yet. I haven't tried it. I will try it maybe next time.
You know, syempre could have, would have, should have, no? But you were obviously looking for work during the pandemic.
Mm,
And there were a lot of, just to share, no, there was a lot of work available for people with bio, maybe science, bio, medical background who knew data. That's what I did, a lot of that, me and my group. Over the 3 years of the pandemic, we did a lot of biological related work.
mm,
Pero mas nakilala kami for some other things like yung dengue project namin sa NASA. But we also worked with WHO, uh, which is actually technically, it sounds like a medical or a health project, but it's actually a data project. Like one of the projects we did was mga registries, which is basically just storing names and data points. So we did the cancer registry, we did the suicide registry. Kasi believe it or not, kaya nga mind blown ako eh. Believe it or not, our health data, or in general in the world, but in the Philippines especially, is not really very good. So
mm,
it's hard to find high quality good data kasi nga it's all fragmented, kanya-kanya sa ospital, and no one's tracking. There are government data sets, yung mga health surveillance, for example, but they don't gather the right information as well. So you need to do another spot survey if you find something. It's actually for me a miracle that the whole thing works. Parang okay that we're tracking it. Pero nung nagkaroon ng COVID kasi, everyone started looking at COVID data. So yan,
yes.
biglang no. Kaya sabi ko parang sayang, no, if you were in that position, you would have made a difference. I don't know where you were in that journey pa nung time na yun.
Mm,
Mga circa ano rin yun eh. 2020 to 2022 eh. Yun yung kasagsagan ng COVID craze, and then people were doing these. I don't know if were you ever exposed to biomathematics? There's a colleague of mine, si Dean Jomar Rabahante of UPLB.
mm,
Dami kami natutunan sa kanya on yung mga compartmental models, yung SEIR. It's how parang you're just tracking the status of patients, no, from susceptible, exposed, infected, and removed. Removed can
mm,
be recovered or dead. So yung trend of an epidemic, it's really just a status change. So in a database, that would just be a status flag. Pero mathematically model yon, and that's how yung mga fancy measures like R naught, RT, which was highly debated. And then ngayon, I don't know if you follow Professor Guido David, he's a mathematician. I interviewed him recently, and he talks about yung ginagawa niyang work sa COVID, yung mga iba pang indicators like positivity rate, yung mga ganyan, which can be a good leading indicator for the epidemic. So would that kind of work be interesting to you? Is that something that you might find like a good blend of what you're doing now and yung bio background mo?
Opo, surely yun talaga yung ano, kumbaga ideal kasi meron akong, ah, experience on both worlds sa bio and in tech. So, that would be my ideal work. Actually nung nag-search ako hindi ko siya nakikita yung mga gano'ng, type of work.
Mm.
Siguro, nakahiligan ko lang kasi mag-follow talaga ng mga, about sa industry is simula nung lately lang din nung nag-start ako sa tech na tsaka ako
Mm.
nag-follow sa LinkedIn, sa mga groups. Pero siguro kung, na-expose ako sa mga ganyang, people, magkakaroon pa ako ng ano, mga connection.
Yeah.
And thank you for letting me know that, sir.
Yeah, it's big, It's big.
Mm,
Ngayon, just to share, syempre we saw all of our COVID-related projects, expire, fade away. And
mm,
then, I personally made a shift to Gen AI, which we can talk about later. Pero there's always some sort of a health project, no? Like for example, sa DOST, di ba? You're a scholar. There are three councils there. There's a council on uh, emerging technology research and development. Yung PSHRD, I'd work with them a lot. They were the ones who funded Project Sparta. No? Then there's a PCHRD, Health Research and Development. That's yan naman yung mahilig suki sa DOH yan, no? Yung mga medical schools. You can get grants from them to do some sort of a project. Between those two alone, merong mga health possible applications, no, which could be of interest. And you can literally just propose a project. I'm not saying you can get in, pero or you get in quickly kasi mahaba yung pila. Pero that could be an interesting avenue. And then the third council is yung agriculture research and development, yung Picard. They look at ano naman, mga farming and so may in a way may biology component din yun kasi they're also looking at aquaculture and actually biology. In fact, one of the people I interviewed early last year, he was into food, no? Food technology, and how to grow crops. I think you need biologists for that. Diba? So yun yun eh. Parang kaya nga bigla ako nagugulat maybe in a good way na may ganyan palang parang inefficiency in the market. And if there's someone like you who suffered through that sort of, marami pang iba. And I want to find a way to plug that. And biology maybe not the only place, no? Baka marami pa mga ibang mga sciences. So eto tayo, push tayo ng push ng STEM, pero pag may nagkamaling nag-bio, you gotta be a doctor na. Parang yun yung doon ako na disturb eh.
Yes.
Parang it's like a trap. Oh my God, no?
Like biology is not enough by itself.
Hmm.
Mga gano'n ang nangyari.
Okay. Hindi siya katulad ng ano, no? Just trying to compare. Parang psychology. Kasi there's a psychometrics license na,
Mm,
which is what psychology people take if they want to get into yung medyo statistical applied psychology, yung mga gumagawa ng mga HR assessments, personality, mga tests. Siyempre, you need to know stat. So, ang equivalent niyan sa inyo is informatics siguro, the bioinformatics. Pero as
mm.
you said, it's kind of locked, no? You gotta have so many other things before you get into it. I feel that's the inefficiency. Sana in-open yon. And then now we have biostatisticians, bioinformaticians, something like that, no? And then maybe that can be licensed if it's not licensed yet, and give some opening for people, no? Okay. Sige, okay. So you're 1 year in the job now. What are you looking forward to, or where you want to go?
So, I'm still upskilling po and nakita ko na isa sa mga gaps ko pa is yung, cloud computing
Hmm.
and which is nakikita ko sa mga mid-level, job is laging may gano'n tsaka yung mga ETL tools like yung ano, nakalimutan ko yung tawag pero mga Apache Airflow mga gano'n,
Airflow. Hmm.
mga Hadoop, mga gano'n na ano, yun yung wala pa akong, experience pa and yun yung mga need ko pang i-pursue bago ako siguro mag-apply or mag-pursue sa higher ano, job positions.
Pero when you say higher, it's within the data engineering or
Yes.
data space na, no? What about data science or analytics? Is that an interest for you? Kasi that's the parang the more common path na if you listen to people.
Yes po. Actually sa una yun yung ano, una kong job na idea analyst, yung naggagawa ng graphs, ng mga reports, insights. Pero once na nung nag-start ako dito sa job na 'to, parang mas okey din yung parang sa back-end side ka na
Mm,
ikaw
mm.
yung nagpa-process ng data ah from extraction to transforming, mas okey din pala yun kahit na hindi ikaw yung nagre-report, ikaw yung gagawa naman ng mga, ng mga pipelines. Parang mas, okey yun kasi mas programming intensive siya compare sa, analyst at scientist na, ang ibibigay mo is, analysis, insights, you will do ah, statistical,
Mga models and all
skills,
that stuff.
models, yan,
Mm.
gano'n. So, mas gusto ko parang sa back-end side ako na for pipelines.
You're not the first to say that. And I've done a fair amount of data engineering work myself then, no, both in my startup work and also in my old banking work. We just didn't call it that. Uh, Iba nga yung satisfaction niya kasi and it's not easier, it's actually quite harder in in some respects kasi in a way it brings you closer to engineering talaga,
Mm,
not just programming pero you're literally looking at a process, input output, di ba,
mm,
and transformation in the middle, and you want to consider things like efficiency, kunyari, doing a query on a database, merong bad way of doing it, may good way of doing it, may optimization. And then kunyari, the work you do, looking at data at the atomic level. na hindi pa ginagalaw ng tao yan at that point, no? Parang getting raw data, transforming it into, in a way, it's kind of like publication, pero more of, very mechanical. It can be quite satisfying. So I'm gonna point out, for example, I'm sure I don't know if you saw yung interview ko with Sandy
Mm.
Laugico. She was a converted data scientist then, or data analyst then. Now she's completely into data engineering. Si Josh, no, who's also a career shifter like you. I don't know if you talk to him. You should talk to him.
Yes, I know Josh Balde yun. Well, yeah.
Oh, and now he's doing training then for people who want to get into it. Nakita rin niya yung yung shift. So ang yun na nga, that's another inefficiency for me. Na parang in many respects, they had to go through the data science first and then nakita nila, mas maganda dito, punta tayo dito. 'Di ba? Parang ganun. Why not start there na lang, no? And I think that's the reason yan sina Mike and the rest formed that data engineering group.
Mm,
Kasi it's not like you can take a data engineering course. Walang ganun eh.
mm.
I think wala pa, no? Or meron na ba? Parang wala eh.
IT, computer engineer, computer science, yun yung ano eh.
Yun yung entry point,
Tatlo.
'di ba? Hmm. Pero even yung mga nag-hardcore CS, hindi sila data engineer yet eh. Gets mo?
Mm,
Parang
mm,
yeah, algorithms and computing processes. You know how to write yung mga sinabi mo, mga conditionals, loops, object-oriented programming. And yet that's not even what data engineers do. Alam mo yun? Parang that's just the building blocks of what you could use. Pero it doesn't even cover Excel, no? So I feel that there's another gap for people to be taught that exact skill. Paano ba yan, no? And in most cases, all cases, I think, you need to go the self-study route. You go to
yes.
YouTube, let the Indians on YouTube teach you that. or or yeah, yung mga code camps. Have you tried any one of those mga certificate courses in data eng? May mga ganun na eh, di ba?
Opo, pero marami rin sa Coursera, ganyan.
Mm.
Ang na-try ko pa lang is yung mga libre. Pero
Mm.
yung mga paid, hindi ko pa try kasi, ano rin siya, pricey din.
Okay. Hindi, yun na nga eh. Well, that's another inefficiency na
Mm,
parang I don't know to what extent the certificates are also respected. That's actually kasi a misnomer eh. Just because you have a certificate doesn't mean you get a job. A lot of people, sa data analysis, maraming na ano dyan, naipit dyan. Data eng has always been, for me, a very applied discipline from the very beginning. So you're judged more on the basis of the projects you've done, no?
mm.
Which makes it closer to parang web dev. No one looks for a college degree anymore if you want to hire a dev. Give me an example of the websites you've done. Parang ganun eh. So in a way, yun yung parang hybrid nature ng data engineer or people aspiring to be data engineers. You want to build a portfolio of projects. Pero the hard thing is, maybe you can share how do you do your portfolio? Kasi hindi katulad ng mga data analyst, they can just create a repository full of mga dashboards, no? And then
Mm.
yun na yun. Or some reports. Or a data scientist can maybe post a paper or something. Ano yung portfolio for a data engineer? How do you go about it?
Basically po, ang ginawa ko sa portfolio ko is I have a Python file, Jupyter Notebook. So ginawa ko siya sa Markdown ng GitHub.
Yeah.
So yun, makikita yung code dun line by line. So ang project sa portfolio ko is ETL. So extract from I'm calling an API and
Mm,
getting the JSON file, and
mm,
transform is putting them into data frame and make it structured, and clean the data. So in load part, I believe merong code din na pwede i-connect yung from Python to SQL or certain database.
yeah.
And then ayun, and puwede sa dulo is ayun, dun na yung load sa pag-connect sa database. And puwede rin sa dulo na part na puwede kang mag-create ng visualizations, so kung para saan yung data na prinocess mo, in-extract mo, kung paano mo siya mabibigyan ng value. So
There's I wanted to ask your opinion on this. Wala naman tama o mali, no? But
mm,
that's a great, for me, idea, no? Because no one actually has prescribed what a data engineering portfolio should look like. because it's hard to kind of capture on a page, no?
Mm,
So yung iba alam ko they do like mga architecture diagrams, but that's not engineering, that's data architecture, which
mm.
can also be useful. Um, in some ways it's almost like a data product, no? Para kang gagawa ka ng process flow na okay, insert your Excel sheet here, para siyang sausage machine, and then when
Mm.
you get it out, iba na yung itsura. In a way, that's kind of software engineering already. You're creating basically a product, no? Did you ever see it that way, or are you planning to do something like that?
Yes, parang gagawa ka ng mga pipeline, eh,
Mm,
basically yun yung kasi sa data engineering, eh, paggawa ng pipeline, using through code,
mm.
ayun po.
Naalala ko pag sinasabing pipeline, yung Mario Brothers, eh. Going through the pipes. So in a way, you guys are the plumbers, no? The data
Mm,
plumbers.
mm.
Okay, okay. So sige, creating a portfolio. And then, is there an ideal, at least for you, amount of projects that gets you in? Or how did you navigate that? Kasi marami ring types of engineering, di ba? Marami ring mga data structures. I don't know, just thinking out loud, no? How would you go about it? Kasi kunyari, sa data science, maraming mga algorithms, no? Yung iba gagawa ng regression model, yung iba
Mm.
gagawa ng, I don't know, clustering, and of course, the neural networks. So, sa data engineer, may ganun ba? Are there like archetypes of engineering work or pipelines na you think should be displayed?
Tingin ko yung ano, may different, scenario for different projects kasi may mga iba na ETL yung gagawing framework, may iba naman na ELT yung ilo-load tsaka ita-transform na agad. So siguro, depende siya sa kung ano yung ano, kung ano yung magiging overall process architecture, the need ng business.
Mm. In your interviews ba, did they ever ask you about that? Or were you already applying for a data engineer job or hindi pa?
Hindi pa. So, nag-a-upskill muna ako tapos, para confident ako 'pag, ano lang ng bagong job, 'pag
That
na-interview ako.
I think we should do that in the group, no? Parang
Mm.
share war stories. And data engineering for me is a very niche parang set of stories. Kasi I have never interviewed for data engineering. You know, it's always just something I did in my work. And then candidates then usually hindi naman kami nag-hire talaga ng data engineer as is back in the day. We got data analysts and gave them engineering work. And that's actually one of the biggest complaints these days na parang apply ka ng analyst job, yung pala engineering yung trabaho.
Hmm.
And they leave, no? And then there's the opposite kind of people like yourself who would rather do that, no? But you didn't know na pwede pala mag-apply as an analyst only to find out may engineering work. That's I think another market inefficiency na we should fix eventually. Pero for example, meron akong in-interview dati. And this is an example of a bad interview. And I was still in Teradata, no? Which is a big IT database firm. Very, very data engineering oriented. Pero we were hiring data science people, you know. And anyway, long story short, the candidate said, "Oh, I work in this company, I work in that company." So yeah, check, check. These are the projects. And then, alam mo, in data science, di ba, one of the most common types of models, yung mga classification, no?
Hmm.
Is it a cat? Is it a dog? Is it a positive? Is it a negative? So, may sinabi siyang ganun. I did a classifier, maybe as a project or, as part of my job. So, tinanong ko, o sige, since you're into that, can you explain what a confusion matrix is? No? It's an example of an interview. Or what is precision, what is recall, what is specificity, mga ganun, di ba? I don't even think I would remember it, no? But at least make an attempt. And then this guy talaga froze. Parang blank siya. And then sinabi ko, look, if you're gonna get into a job like this, you should at least know the vocabulary, di ba? I'm so sure you can easily Google it on the job. Pero ngayon, if it's not second nature to you, and then yan ang ihaharap mo as the artifact for your experience, doesn't look very good. Anyway, long story short, it wasn't a successful interview. So, transplanting that to data engineering, in your view, ano ba yung mga typical vocabulary na dapat and it's still emerging, no, since you're also upskilling, na you
Hmm.
think an engineer should know or an aspiring engineer should know?
So yun nga yung lagi ko nasabi na yung ETL, alam mo ibig
Mm.
sabihin niyan, yung ELT, difference nun. Tapos, sa tingin ko yung mga tools na required tulad ng mga, SQL, ano yung alam mo na yung ins and out ng SQL, ano yung mga difference ng ng group by, ng mga ganyan-ganyan. Tapos ah, sa mga siguro kahit basic knowledge siya sa Python, kasi mostly yun yung talagang, gamit na language, eh. Ayun sa mga tools, ayun po.
Any particular Python package or library uh,
Mm.
that comes to mind? Kasi marami sa Python, or is it just the basic Python language?
Number one na naisip kong is pandas.
Mhm.
So, yun yung pag, transform mo sa data frame, yung parang mga, data cleaning mo sa pandas yung gagawin. So, pati sa mga I believe sa mga computation,
Mm.
yeah.
I'll share another bad interview. Uh, and again, this was back in my Teradata days. No? We were interviewing someone to become another data scientist candidate. And then pinagyayabang niya na marunong siya mag-R. Kasi
Mm,
R was one of the hot, up to now, languages. And then I remember, it didn't come from me, no? I thought it was particularly, mean. It came from yung co-interviewer ko who's a foreigner. Kasi, anyway, the interview was already a bit shaky. Kasi, mukhang sinama lang niya sa CV niya yung R just for, SEO. Para
mm.
ma-pick up siya. So, but actually, wala naman siyang binabanggit regarding the use of R. No? Actually, I'm not much of an R user myself. No? Although we used it during the pandemic, so many of the scientific statistical calculations was on R. No? But other than that, medyo ma-Python, mas Python ako kaysa sa R. But anyway, tinanong lang siya, okay, so you use a lot of R. Can you name some R packages that you like? Diba?
Hmm.
At nila na, that was it. That was the end of the interview. Wala siyang masabi. And in my mind, parang, you should at least be able to name one. Diba? Yung ggplot, something like that.
Mm.
Or
Visualization.
so for me, that's it. Parang, you can really tell the people who use things and don't use
Mm.
things. I don't know, thinking out loud. No? Okay. So, sige, back to your journey. You're upskilling, and you said you need to know cloud. Any
Yes.
particular cloud na nakita mong in demand right now?
Yung top 3 talaga, yung AWS, Azure, tsaka GCP. Pero, if I have to start, tingin ko AWS kasi, um, yun din yung maraming ads na advertisement na meron silang mga, free webinars. Yun yung mga mas nakikita ko sa page ko. So, yeah, if I have to start, I start with AWS. Ayun.
Yeah, AWS is pretty popular. And actually, it resembles yung mga hardware wars back in the day. So before cloud became popular, yeah, you had Oracle, you had IBM, you had Microsoft, yung SQL Server, you had Teradata. So dun din kumbaga nagkakatalo. You might know database in general, but it certainly helps to be a Microsoft certified engineer, no, in
Mm,
SQL Server. And that's how they ensure their monopoly. Kaya nga yung cloud, although in a way it's also convenient kasi you don't have to have your own hardware, but in a way that's also a way of, for me, restricting mobility. Eh. So parang paano na? Kung na AWS ka lang, you can only work for AWS stack
mm,
companies, no? Eh paano kung Azure yung isa, 'di ba? Paano kung
mm.
Google Cloud? No? Okay. Other than cloud, anything else na you were thinking of studying or picking up on top of what on what you know now?
I believe yung mga ETL tools po na tulad ng Hadoop, ng Apache Airflow ay mga need ko pang aralin. Kasi as of now, ang gamit lang namin is yung legacy tool, local app namin,
Mm.
which is hindi ko naman alam kung anong nangyayari under the hood. So, kung yung mga, ngayon, mga modern tools, yun din yung need kong aralin.
Yeah. Actually, Airflow, I was there when it first popped into it. Meron pang ang Ni-Fi dati, ano na kung mabuhay pa yun. And what about, you mentioned Hadoop. Hadoop is many things, no? So, any particular part of the Hadoop ecosystem. Like dati, nauso yung Spark.
Mm.
Spark is an in-memory data store, no? And what made it, dati kasama siya sa Hadoop distribution and then later next splinter off siya. You can actually just use Spark on its own. Ang naging bentahan niya was because in-memory siya, mabilis. And if you're doing a lot of complicated queries on a database, sa disk kasi nag-ooperate si database eh, di ba?
Mm.
So, of course, you have SSDs now and, high-speed disks. Pero dati, that could spell the difference between a 30-minute query and a 3-hour query. So, sa Spark, 15-30 minutes, done, no? Big, big tables. Pero ang kalaban mo naman is getting a server that has that much memory. Kasi dati, yung mga server RAM dati, nasa 32 to 48 gigabytes lang, di ba? And yung mga laptop was less than 16, mga 8 to 4 gig na RAM lang. So, kung yung table mo is bigger than that, hindi ubra yung in-memory. So, dun mo makikita rin yung ano, the savvy of the engineer na, okay, certain portions we do in memory, certain portions on disk. And then somehow you join that and then it becomes your pipeline. Malaking ano yun, skill yun. That, in a way, that's still ETL, but
Mhm.
more of playing around now with the platforms. No? Anyway, so going back, sa Hadoop, did you bother checking ano ba yung mga laman ng Hadoop na you wanted to get into?
Actually, hindi pa, eh. Narinig ko lang siya, nakikita ko sa mga job description 'yan, Hadoop. Pero hindi ko pa ako nakapag-dive in talaga.
Yeah. I remember when Hadoop first also became popular. That was when I left banking. It was being touted kasi as the anti-database database. Kasi when you wanted a database, usually you go for the commercial ones. Mahal, no? May lisensya yan. Kaya nauso yung MySQL and PostgreSQL, no? Kasi yun yung open source. And they're pretty good on their own, no? Pero Hadoop was the one that was saying, oh, it's a parallel data store. You can just use commodity, parang hardware. Pag sinabing commodity hardware, just any generic server. And then you just add more servers para magsiscale siya, no? But then what people realized was, hindi rin naman para siya mabilis. At that time, I don't know ngayon kung malupit na siya. But it's a great place to store non-structured data. No? Yun din yung parang middle ground nung lumabas yung NoSQL, if you're familiar with NoSQL.
Mm.
Yung mga MongoDB, mga ganyan, Presto, those are like mga databases but not really relational. Parang mga key value store lang sila, you know.
Mm.
But somehow you can query them, no? And I think the big challenge kasi pag unstructured data is you don't know the schema. So usually you store it as a big blob, parang ganun na. Ngayon uso na yung blob. So it's good to store, pasok ka lang ng pasok, pero when you want to retrieve, ang hirap. You gotta retrieve the
Hmm.
entire record and then
Mm.
hanapin mo sa gitna kung ano yung laman. So, great for archives perhaps, no? Or raw storage. Pero it's impossible for analytics. You need to find a middle layer na literally kukunin niya yung raw structure tapos gagawin niya. Na in a relational database, nagawa mo na dapat yon, di ba? And then you store it in the appropriate tables and columns. Pero ang tagal naman ng trabaho na yon, yung gagawa ka ng data model, and
Mm.
yung mga star schema and all that. So that's what people wanted to skip. So ang dami, paulit-ulit yung problem na yan. Nowadays, you have things like, the Hadoop was the basis of the concept of a data lake. You heard of a data lake, no?
Yes.
Na lapag mo lang yung data, you don't care too much what it looks like. And then later, pag kailangan mo na, you retrieve it and then model it. As opposed to a data warehouse or a data,
Structured.
naisa-structure mo na agad, long before loading. So yung trabaho bumaliktad, rather than create the model first and then load via ETL. You just load the data first and then you do the structure after. Uh, I guess ang concept niyan parang technical debt lang yan sa software. Kung uunahin mo yung load, later na yung structure, sa huli yung pagsisisi mo. Eh, 'di ba? Kung uunahin mo yung structure ngayon, sisisi ka na agad. And then pero once you get it through, it's already clean, no? And
Mm.
these concepts don't seem to die eh. Parang they just keep coming back again and again in different form. Ngayon there's a data lake house, which is kind of a middle ground between the data lake and the data warehouse. So in a way, may partial structure na. Alam mo yun, parang sabi ko, we're just kidding each other. Naglolokohan lang tayo eh. Parang, di ba?
Oo,
Parang, you're gonna have to do it eventually. And then, kung bumabalik ka na with the traditional data warehousing parang paradigm, very minimum dyan, 3 layer palagi. The raw data, the model, and then yung business tables, no? And then maybe in between, may mga transitory tables pa. Ang magpapatakbo niyan, ETL. That I think is almost a lost art nowadays, no? Number one, it's hard to find material to learn it. You usually learn it from the actual people who have done it, yung mga experts. Or you were doing it yourself and then you learn it. Kaya medyo maganda rin yung opportunity if you can work in a company with a mature data environment. Para you learn.
mm.
Hindi mo mababasa sa libro eh. It's not something you can teach or they should teach it dapat. Or yung mga experts na dapat mga gurang-gurang na should go back to school and teach it somehow. Maybe of them are doing it already.
Mm,
Okay. I just realized we're almost at the hour, no? Bilis, no? So maybe we spend the last few minutes talking about advice that you
oo.
would give to maybe si Neil back in the day. If you could go back in time and tell yourself some advice, and of course other people who are also in your shoes and are like mga STEM graduates tapos medyo lost. How would you address them or what would you tell them?
Dapat nag-IT ka na lang agad. Hindi, joke lang. Kasi, from hindsight perspective kasi andito na ako sa ngayon. Pero kung ano, in the future, hindi ko naman alam kung ano yung magiging trend pa, eh. So, siguro, maganda na rin talaga na tingnan mo kung ano yung magiging trend mo, trend ng ano, ng job market
Mhm.
bago ka mag-pursue ng course. Siyempre isasaalang-alam mo rin kung ano yung gusto mo. Pero ayun nga, maganda kasi in the first place na siguraduhin mo rin na may patutunguhan ka. So, yun yung payo ko sa dating ako. Pero kung sakali kung sakali man na ano yun nangyari na, tapos gusto payo rin sa mga magka-career shift, um, just do it kasi ang ano lang naman dun, there's a lot of, resources and there's a lot of, good communities and, naging anong enlightenment rin nga sa'kin yung, sa data engineering Pilipinas na meron palang nag-e-exist na ganitong group na hindi lang basta business, ano may yung purpose din is to nurture people talaga na especially mga nag-i-start tsaka overall yung tech culture sa Pilipinas. So ayun, may mga community, ang daming resources and it's just you na just do your part na mag-aral ka and, mag-upskill ka para makapag-career shift ka ng maayos.
I find that really good advice. Pero sige, again, let's go back in time. How come you never considered IT, comsci? Was it because you wanted to be a doctor? Was that it?
Yes, ano yun lang talaga yung ano, parang, childhood dream, ita-try ko 'to, parang
Mm.
gano'n. And hindi naman ako masyadong nagsisi kasi nag-enjoy naman din talaga ako kasi alam ko na, yung decision ko nun based sa gusto ko at that time. And ngayon, siyempre, real world, practicality wise, tsaka ko na-realize na, ay puwede pa naman ako mag-ano, hindi pa naman huli lahat, puwede pa naman ako mag-ano, mag-shift. Eh, ito
Mm,
focus na
mm.
ako.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. Kasi, again, I'm not denigrating medicine at all.
Hmm.
Sometimes nga, pagkakamalan akong doktor eh. I do have a brother who's a medical doctor.
Hmm.
And he keeps saying, alam mo, baliktad, no? When people address him, they think he's me. Sabi niya, oh, yung interview mo kanina, no, that's not me, it's my brother. Yeah. And then I also have a cousin and an uncle who's a medical doctor. We really need more doctors, sa totoo lang.
Hmm.
But yun nga, it's a challenging path also to take. And yeah, we didn't even talk about AI, no? Any thoughts
Hmm.
about artificial intelligence? Do you use it even for personal use, or is it something that has helped you in your career?
Sure po. Siyempre we have ChatGPT at sa AI, it helps talaga sa pag-aaral and
Mm.
sa mga art ganyan, we have, text to speech, text to art na ano, na softwares. And, for me, AI is parang nuclear power plant siya na
Talaga? Oo.
crucial siya sa advancement ng civilization tsaka industry, crucial siya. Pero ayun nga, merong mga, risk na tinatawag na kailangan pa rin mag-ingat, yung para sa'kin.
You know, I wanna share something 'no. I recently gave a talk, I just won't say the school na lang, but it was an IT, class, comsci actually. And siyempre because they attended my talk, um, they're now part of my mailing list and I use that list to broadcast yung mga training na ginagawa ko on AI, prompt engineering, and all that. And I think literally the only person who asked not to be emailed came from that class. And sabi niya, I'm not interested. No? So doon ako napaisip na, wow, okay. Siyempre, we respect your wishes. Tanggal ka na sa mailing list. Um, do you feel like AI can be a threat to yung mga ganyan, mga tech or mga dev jobs? Kasi for me, I don't. Pero baka on some level, there might be that parang ano, concern na ma-automate na siya. How do you feel about that?
Yes, talagang may gano'n talagang, concern kasi pagaling ng pagaling yung AI, sabi yung ano, meron ngang mga parang sa art industry merong ano na, parang yung digital art ano na, na-down na dahil may mga gano'n text to image na. Tapos
Mhm.
may mga part na puwede ngang i-automate sa mga ano, kahit yung mga analysis I believe, if you want to create report na, paulit-ulit puwede na rin yung i-AI or automate. Ayun yung, major concern. Pero, siguro ang mangyayari may mga ibang job na male-layoff pero may mga other opportunities na mabubukas, yung parang
Correct.
mashi-shift lang.
Yeah.
So, ang need lang talaga ng ano is gano'n naman siguro talaga sa ano, sa nangyayari talaga sa economy. Kasi halimbawa dati may mga messenger, may mga kartero na mga magdadala ng email, ngayon may electronic na. Yung mga kartero na yun, ibang job na dapat yung maano. Parang similar lang din, dito naman sa AI siya nangyayari. So, tsaka tingin ko hindi naman talaga mawawalan ng programmer kasi in the first place, ang programmer ang gumagawa sa AI. So, kapag ano, wala rin namang AI mangyayari kung walang programmer. Ayun lang, magkakaroon lang ng ano, magbubukas may magsasang opportunities, may magbubukas din.
Yeah, it's like ano eh. Like ako, my background was accounting. You know, who
Mm,
knew, no? So, and I didn't become a CPA. Not because there weren't any jobs, but it was just too, ano, too, for me, too competitive. To get up, you need to go through literally butas ng karayom, no? So I ended up not using the accounting background. Oh no, I did use it, by the way. No, I used it when I was in banking, pero it was more from a tech standpoint because I knew how interest rates, annuities worked, etc. Debit credit. But then I knew databases, and most accounting systems are really just databases, no, in and out, mga ledgers, mga journals. So for me, it was useful having that parang that kind of blend. So in your case, I think you went deep into the ano na, the tech part. At some point you might want to go in kind of in the middle na naman, no? Parang yun nga, bring back your biology background or maybe the middle ground is informatics and health.
mm.
Ganun eh. I think that can be useful. And okay, why did I say that? Why did I bring it there? Excel was the killer app nung nasa university ako. Um, no one wanted to use it. But they were busy using adding machines, columnar pads, and yung mga engineering calculator. Alam mo yung mga yun, yung that can do graphs.
Di ko na naabutan.
Well, yeah, obviously. Pero hindi, they still sell those. And here I was, sabi ko, well, this tool can do all of the above. You know?
Mm,
Lalo na yung summation. Ang dali nun sa Excel, di ba? Select all
mm.
sum, bam. Meron nga akong naging office mate, sobrang chika lang. Literally, ina-adding machine niya yun nasa spreadsheet niya. Kasi sanay siya sa ganun eh. May mga totals. Tinototal niya nung mga punching. Sabi ko, don't you know you can do this? Select. Bam, nagulat siya. Oh, ano. Or nung una ginagawa niya mano-mano. A1 plus A2 plus A3 plus
Ah,
A4. I said, no, no, you can do this. Or you can do sum.
mm,
And Anyway, long story short, I was younger. That person didn't stay in the job too long. They were replaced by people like me who knew Excel. So sabi ko, that's always the case. Eh. It's not the AI, the Excel did not kill accounting. It's the accountants with Excel who displaced the accountants who did not use Excel. So I feel na AI is just exactly that. Eh. AI will not kill your job, but those that use AI will actually get your job. And yun nga, tama ka. Developers will always be needed because you're always needing to build something, you know. And that's why I think data engineering is an enduring job. Kasi nga, the level of variability in a company, pagdating mo doon, ano yung data nila, paano ba? It's still very complex enough na bit mo yung AI mo. Maybe you can use AI to eventually just cleanse the data set. Pero it needs to be guided by someone like you, no, who knows it. As opposed to, baka nga data science pa yung unang madali, if you ask me. Because if your part of the journey is just doing that prediction component, creating a model, AI can already do that now,
Mm, mm,
'di ba? You can literally ask GPT-4 to do that. Hey, look,
mm,
here's a data set. Please create a logistic regression model or test the following.
mm,
Literally, iba-iba yung algorithm, hanapin niya yung best. Talagang kayang-kaya na yun. And that's what actually these models were originally designed to do, interpret code. So, hanapin mo na lang yung sweet spot. Baka hindi ka na modeler. Baka doon ka na sa model validation
mm,
or sa interpretation. The same thing for data engineering. Baka it won't be the mano-mano data cleansing part, but the pipeline management, efficiency management, baka doon na pupunta. But the job did not disappear.
mm.
Okay, sige. Any last words? Anything you want to mention or to call out?
Ayun, shoutout Data Engineering Pilipinas. Nakilala ko si Doc at thank you kay Sir Mike Ogbinar sa mga free data camp yan. And thank you so much para sa mga upskilling naming mga nag-i-start pa lang. Ayan.
Alam mo ba, konting history?
Mm,
Hindi naman chismis. Before this group got built, I was in-invite ako mag-talk ni Mike dun sa work niya sa San Miguel. No? And he kept telling me this thing again and again. We would meet each other in many events. Sabi niya, Doc, kailangan talaga meron data engineering group eh. Kasi parang no one's talking about data engineering. Ganun siya. Ako, alam mo, Mike, you just start it already and you will see people will show up. Na
mm.
talaga? Kaya ba yun? Yeah, let's do a Facebook group and then whatever. So ngayon, naging Discord channel na.
Ah,
And then now, it's got a lot of members, no? It grew faster than any group I remember. And it probably will rival all of the data science groups. Kasi nag-iisa lang din naman siya eh. Wala namang ibang ganun eh.
mm,
Hindi katulad sa mga dev groups dami, diba? IT
ang dami.
groups. Syempre sa data science, marami rin. Data engineering nag-iisa eh. So
Mm,
parang but the other funny part is the people joining the data eng group actually came from all of these data science groups also,
mm,
but not all. So I suspect karamihan sa kanila are kind of like you and Sandy and Josh who may have started in this other domain and then found, baka this is more interesting. And then they
mm.
jump in and then they learn it. It's an interesting commonality eh. Parang everyone seems to be going the same route. So I'm very happy that we've had this conversation. Okay, sige. Thank you very much, Neil. And yeah, all the best on your career. And I'll be seeing you around in the group and the events. And baka in the next episode, tingnan natin may major development na sa'yo.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doc.
Okay?